I never thought I'd fake an engagement, let alone vanish on my wedding day. But when you grow up suffocated by relentless expectations, sanity demands drastic measures. My parents weren't just traditional, they wielded tradition like a whip, a noose tightening around my neck. "You're 30 now," my mother would sigh at every family dinner, disappointment thick in her voice. It wasn't love or happiness they sought for me, it was optics, reputation, a checkbox completed. My sister, Clara, married at 24 to a banker who never stopped boasting about his Porsche. She lived the picture-perfect Instagram life, gleaming smiles hiding bitter midnight tears. Clara's success set impossible standards. My existence was labeled an embarrassment. Every holiday was a parade of questions. "Where's your boyfriend? When will we meet someone?" The relentless chorus chipped away my confidence, slowly twisting my sense of self. Then came Alex, charming, mysterious, perfect for my scheme, willing to help for a price. We met randomly at a cafe. He was reading Dostoevsky, looking ironically amused by life. I recognized something reckless and untamed in his smirk, something I desperately wanted to borrow. We formed a quick, pragmatic alliance, each clear about the roles we'd play, until the act blurred reality. But Alex didn't know the depth of bitterness festering beneath my surface, threatening to spill out. When I introduced Alex to my family, their eyes shone brighter than I'd ever seen. Suddenly, I wasn't an outcast, I was their triumph, their renewed pride and joy. Dad shook Alex's hand firmly, repeating how proud he was. Mom gushed endlessly about grandkids. Their approval was intoxicating yet painfully hollow, underscoring every past rejection. Deep down, I knew this false acceptance would soon shatter, but I clung desperately to the illusion. I chose the venue, extravagant and picturesque, bleeding my family's finances dry with every deposit. Lavish flowers, absurdly priced food tastings, custom-made dresses, all to fulfill their insatiable hunger for appearances. My family wrote checks without hesitation, blinded by their pride, oblivious to my seething resentment. Watching them empty their savings for a lie felt disturbingly satisfying yet left me with quiet shame. The deeper they invested, the more committed I became to my ruthless deception. Clara grew suspicious, sensing cracks in my flawless facade. She cornered me one night, eyes narrowed in suspicion, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you sure you're okay? You never looked at Alex like a fiancé, more like a partner in crime." I nearly broke then, her words piercing the fragile shell around my heart, forcing hidden doubts forward. But the weight of years of bitterness hardened my resolve. I lied effortlessly to her face. As days slipped closer to the wedding, I felt strangely alive, adrenaline rushing, guilt and anger tangled. Alex noticed, quietly asking if I was sure, reminding me the humiliation awaiting my family. I brushed off his concern, masking vulnerability with defiance, saying it was justice long overdue. Still, in quiet moments, doubt whispered cruelly, warning of damage that might never heal. Yet the night before my wedding, under moonlight and heavy silence, I knew retreat wasn't an option. This wasn't just revenge, it was liberation, cruelly poetic and mercilessly just. But as dawn crept closer, shadows of regret danced around the corners of my conscience. Would the pain I inflicted on others justify the freedom I craved so fiercely? Tomorrow would bring clarity one way or another, and there would be no turning back. I whispered into the darkness, "Forgive me," unsure if the plea was meant for my family or myself. I wasn't always this bitter, wasn't always fueled by anger and resentment. Years ago, I'd tasted freedom briefly, away from my family's suffocating influence at university. It was there, in the messy chaos of dorm life, that I met Liam. Carefree, spontaneous, and beautifully imperfect. We fell recklessly in love, our hearts ignoring logic, our dreams brighter than reality allowed. Liam showed me life beyond rigid expectations, where happiness wasn't scripted. We spent nights under starlit skies, confessing hopes and vulnerabilities without judgment. He laughed loudly and easily, a sound so pure I wanted to bottle it for darker days. But my parents despised Liam immediately. His carefree demeanor clashed with their carefully curated world. They called him immature, irresponsible, not worthy of their daughter's future. Each harsh word was a tiny blade, slowly carving distance between Liam and me. Fearful of losing their approval forever, I did something unforgivable. I betrayed Liam. I lied about who he was, downplayed our connection, treated our love as youthful folly. My parents gleefully tore into him, celebrating my supposed clarity and newfound maturity. Liam discovered my betrayal, and his pain-filled eyes haunt my dreams to this day. Our relationship crumbled swiftly, trust broken irrevocably, leaving me hollow. The day Liam left, he said nothing, just packed up his things quietly with haunting precision. His silence was deafening, speaking louder than any screaming match ever could. I begged him to yell, scream, punish me somehow, but his stoic grief cut deeper. At the door he finally paused, turning to look at me one last time. "Someday you'll regret choosing their approval over your happiness," he whispered softly. After Liam vanished from my life, my parents praised my strength, blind to my hidden agony. They arranged dates with men who fit their ideal profile, each encounter more soulless than the last. I smiled politely, dying inside with every forced conversation, each empty embrace. Bitter regret bloomed darkly in my chest, growing heavier, poisoning everything good around me. But pride kept me chained, afraid of admitting the depth of my mistake, my cowardice. Years later, when Alex appeared, he reminded me of Liam's rebellious spark, reigniting buried guilt. Every stolen glance, every gentle smile from Alex, made me ache for redemption, for authenticity. But instead of confessing or healing, I twisted Alex into my weapon, aimed mercilessly at my family. In him I saw redemption and punishment, a path back to freedom through revenge. Yet, deep beneath my righteous fury, guilt whispered reminders of my first devastating betrayal. Sometimes late at night, memories of Liam surfaced, his easy laughter, his trusting eyes. Each thought tore freshly at wounds I'd never allowed to heal, sharp reminders of my cowardice. I knew the truth clearly now. My family's pressure had always been unbearable, but my choices had caused this suffering. Still, pride silenced apologies, refused accountability, forced me down darker paths. I hardened my heart, choosing revenge, justifying cruelty as justice for wounds inflicted upon myself. The past is never truly buried. It waits patiently beneath layers of lies and resentment. My betrayal of Liam laid the foundation for my current madness, driving my desperate, vengeful act. I vowed silently to myself that no matter the pain, humiliation, or regret to come, I'd never again betray my own heart. Yet as my fake wedding day dawned, Liam's final warning echoed ominously in my ears. Would this final act truly liberate me, or plunge me forever deeper into self-made darkness? As the wedding neared, my resolve began to fray under growing emotional turbulence. The fake smiles, the rehearsed excitement, it all felt grotesquely exhausting, each moment a performance. Yet my parents basked in the charade, oblivious to my hollow stares and forced enthusiasm. Their pride grew daily, suffocating and oppressive, pressing tighter against my ribcage with every toast. Each celebration became another secret shame, amplifying the monstrous lie I'd created. Alex, once confident and assured, began wavering, sensing something deeper unraveling within me. Late one night he found me in tears on my balcony, desperately clutching the cold metal railing. "Do you want to stop?" he whispered gently, voice thick with genuine concern. I shook my head fiercely, unable to voice the complexity, the anger, pain, regret intertwined. We stood in uneasy silence, knowing the game had spiraled dangerously beyond mere revenge. Clara's suspicion intensified, her careful eyes tracing every subtle interaction between Alex and me. She cornered me again, voice sharpened by worry, demanding honesty I refused to give. "Tell me, please, is this really what you want, or is it just another show for Mom and Dad?" My sister, who had lived her own miserable lie, was now desperate to save me from mine. Yet pride silenced me again, determined to carry my brutal, misguided justice to completion. Invitations flooded back in lavish, elegant envelopes, marking inevitable doom with every RSVP. Every accepted invitation deepened my anxiety, magnified the weight of impending humiliation. Nightmares came relentlessly, filled with empty churches and disappointed stares. Sleep became elusive, replaced by silent hours spent questioning every bitter decision. But admitting defeat felt impossible now, like willingly drowning in front of a watchful crowd. The rehearsal dinner was agony, smiles plastered firmly, eyes glazed with concealed panic. Dad's toast was painfully heartfelt, declaring how proud he was I'd finally found stability. Each word stung fiercely, my eyes avoiding his gaze to conceal betrayal etched deep in my soul. Alex held my hand under the table, his comforting squeeze a silent plea for mercy, one I ignored. The applause following Dad's speech felt deafening, every clap a judgmental echo pounding against me. After dinner, Clara approached once more, her voice strained and urgent. "I found something," she confessed, eyes bright with tears. "I tracked down Liam, he's back in town." My heart crashed wildly in my chest, every bitter memory flooding painfully to the surface. "He asked about you," she continued quietly, her revelation slicing my defenses to ribbons. My past betrayal stared me down defiantly, demanding accountability I desperately wished to avoid. That night I sat alone staring at my reflection, haunted, pale, unrecognizable. I realized then, painfully, how little difference lay between my parents' control and my own cruelty. In seeking vengeance, I'd adopted their methods. Manipulation, deception, disregard for feelings. But I was too deep now. Pride shackled me in place, whispering cruelly that retreat meant weakness. Trapped between self-loathing and defiance, I chose to see my deception through, consequences be damned. As dawn broke, I felt strangely calm, a dangerous stillness settling into my bones. Today I'd either break free or shatter completely, either outcome preferable to continued pretense. My note was carefully folded in my pocket, a final statement waiting silently to devastate. Every breath felt like a countdown, every heartbeat a ticking bomb ready to explode. The lie would soon be laid bare, my family's humiliation now as inevitable as my own remorse. The morning of the wedding dawned warm and golden, mocking the storm brewing inside me. Birds chirped outside my hotel window like nothing was wrong, as if the world didn't sense the chaos coming. Bridesmaids bustled in and out, stylists buzzed around me, painting over anxiety with makeup and hairspray. Mom cried with joy when she saw me in the dress, clutching my hands like we'd finally arrived at peace. I looked her straight in the eyes and lied with a smile I didn't feel. Alex wasn't in his suite. He left me a single line on a post-it, "Please don't do this." My chest twisted, guilt bleeding into my lungs like smoke, thick and suffocating. He'd done everything I asked, played the doting fiancé, smiled for photos, endured endless questions. And now when it counted he was gone. The final illusion had cracked before curtain rise. I should have felt abandoned. Instead I felt validated, one last lie torn away by choice. I dressed anyway. Lace and tulle wrapped around me like armor, preparing me for war. The limo ride was quiet. I stared at my reflection in the tinted glass and saw a ghost. Dad waited by the chapel doors, tears in his eyes as he kissed my forehead. His voice trembled, "I'm so proud of you." And I nearly screamed in his face. But I walked forward, clutching my bouquet like a weapon, heart hammering toward the altar. Inside, every guest stood, a sea of familiar faces grinning back at me. The aisle stretched like a gauntlet, each step heavier with dread and clarity. Alex wasn't there. A whisper rippled through the crowd. My mother gasped audibly. Clara's eyes met mine, wide, fearful, and begging me not to go through with it. I reached the altar alone and placed the bouquet on the pedestal like a tombstone. There was no priest, no groom, no ceremony, just stunned silence swallowing the chapel. From my purse I pulled the envelope, the note I'd written with shaking hands the night before. "I'm sorry," I said loud enough for the first few rows to hear. "But this isn't real." Then I turned, walked out slowly past every wide-eyed guest, past the disbelief, past my family. The doors closed behind me like the final chapter of a long, cruel novel. Outside, cameras flashed. My mother had insisted on a videographer for raw moments. Well, she got one. The footage would haunt her more than any family photo ever could. People shouted my name, questions flying like shrapnel. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I climbed into a waiting car, prepaid, and parked discreetly down the block as planned. The driver nodded silently, no questions asked, and we sped away from everything. I left behind my phone, my social media, my address book, anything that tied me to them. My letter explained the basics, but it couldn't capture years of resentment and heartbreak. It ended with one line: "You wanted a performance and I gave you the finale." I imagined Dad reading it, imagined the moment it broke him, then immediately hated myself. This wasn't the clean escape I imagined. It was fire and ashes, and I was burning too. As the city blurred past, grief surged through me, raw and animalistic. I cried not just for the lie but for the version of me they never allowed to exist. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but all I felt was hollow, winded, cold. Still, I didn't stop the car. I couldn't. I wouldn't. Because I'd finally done it. I'd chosen myself even if it destroyed everything else. The news spread fast. Faster than I expected, faster than I was prepared for. Within hours, friends, distant cousins, even co-workers were messaging in disbelief and rage. Photos leaked. Me alone at the altar, the empty aisle, guests whispering behind raised programs. One relative even started a Reddit thread, asking if I had a mental breakdown mid-ceremony. The internet ate it up like candy, hashtags, memes, threads dissecting my wedding walkout. Mom called 100 times before I shut off my burner phone for good. Clara left voicemails that started with concern and quickly twisted into fury. "You don't know what you've done," she said in one message, voice cracking mid-sentence. "You didn't just humiliate them, you humiliated me. Us." Her words carved through my chest, deeper than any stranger's judgment ever could. Dad didn't leave messages. He didn't need to. A mutual friend told me he sat in the empty church for an hour after everyone left. Just sitting. Staring at the altar like it would explain what happened. I pictured him there in his pressed suit, face slack with disbelief and shame. The image haunted me, a ghost of the man who'd always demanded perfection. Alex never reached out, not once. He vanished as cleanly as I did. I don't know if he felt relief or guilt or disgust for what we'd done. I like to imagine he's somewhere warm, forgetting me, starting over under a new name. We never kissed, not once. That boundary held firm even when reality blurred. Still, I miss him in quiet moments, like a phantom limb of the person I pretended to be. My family refused to speak my name for months, according to mutuals. They told people I'd had a crisis, that I was seeking help abroad. The truth was too ugly for them, too real, too damaging to reputation. So they built a new lie to bury the old one, just like always. I watched from afar, silently, wondering if they even noticed how much like me they'd become. Some friends defended me quietly, carefully, people who knew the pressure I'd endured. They sent cryptic texts, "I get it," or "I hope you're okay," then silence. Others blocked me outright, angry about cancelled flights, wasted gifts, ruined vacations. No one wanted to understand the why. Only the spectacle remained. I had become an anecdote, a cautionary tale, a villain in someone else's story. Claire was the one I missed most. She and I had survived so much together. 2 daughters raised in a house that weaponized love. I'd hoped she'd understand eventually, even if she hated me now. But maybe she saw too much of herself in what I did, and that was the real betrayal. Maybe I reminded her of her own chains, the ones she'd wrapped in pretty bows. And still I didn't reach out. Couldn't. Because I knew deep down that what I did wasn't just a rebellion, it was a bomb. And you don't walk back into the crater and expect to be forgiven. You stay in exile. You live with the silence you created. You learn to love the echo even when it hurts more than the noise ever did. I live by the coast now, somewhere quiet where no one knows my name or story. Small town, cheap rent, salt in the air. Peaceful in a way that feels both foreign and earned. The ocean's relentless crash feels honest compared to the performative noise I grew up with. Some days I sit by the water and imagine what the wedding would have been like if it were real. Then I laugh because it was real in the only way that ever mattered. It ended everything. I work at a bookstore now. Nobody asks about my past unless I let them. There's something beautifully redemptive about reshelving fiction while living with your own truth. The owner's a kind woman who once said, "You seem like someone who's burned bridges on purpose." I just smiled and handed her a stack of poetry, pretending that didn't feel like an X-ray. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever tell her the full story. Probably not. At night I write letters I'll never send, to Clara, to Alex, to Liam. To myself too, the version of me who once believed love needed to be earned through suffering. They're all stuffed in a shoebox under my bed, a quiet monument to choices made. Some are angry, others apologetic, most confused. A few I've torn up halfway through. I keep writing anyway. Not for them. For me. I still dream of Liam. In some dreams he forgives me. In others he walks away again. I tried finding him once more, even typed out a message I never sent. It felt too selfish. wanting closure from someone I broke for the approval of people I left. So I let the silence stay. Sometimes forgiveness has to live in absence. Sometimes healing is knowing you don't deserve their reply and still choosing to heal. I don't regret the wedding lie, not fully. That day ended a life that wasn't mine. But I regret the damage. The collateral. The people I dragged into my pain like it was justice. Revenge doesn't feel triumphant when the ash settles. It just feels quiet and irreversible. Still, there's freedom in the wreckage. I get to decide who I am now, not them. That's more than I ever had before. I went by my old house once, drove past it late at night, windows dark, lawn over-trimmed. They'd painted the door a new color. Red. My mother always hated red. I imagined her picking it now, like a defiant signal to the world that she'd moved on. Or maybe it was Clara. Maybe she lives there now, growing her own myths to survive. I didn't stop the car. Some ghosts are better left unspoken. Sometimes I get emails from strangers who heard the story secondhand and tracked me down. Most are angry. A few are admiring. One simply wrote, "Thank you. I almost did it too." I never respond. But I read every word, every echo of someone else breaking free. Because maybe this was never just about me. Maybe we're all just trying to claw out of cages. Some of us just choose fire instead of keys. So yeah, I faked an engagement to humiliate my family. I planned a wedding down to the flower arrangements and then disappeared. I shattered illusions that were killing me, and maybe, in the process, I became something honest. I don't expect forgiveness. Not from them. Not even from myself, not fully. But every day I wake up and breathe without asking for permission, and that, at least, feels real.